But I think he really highlighted through that video that I don't know what the roid culture was like 10, 15 years ago. Was it social comparison or was it more curiosity and see what it looks like? Because I think 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have seen people going on steroids. Like you'd see bodybuilders and that you inspire from.
It's like the Zeus culture.
Yeah, that culture. I mean, his one is an interesting one.
He was a good one, yeah.
His was a good one, but he came at a cost, right? Like, I think that's what people don't see. Influential, yeah. I mean, he'd be one of the number one influencers in the world right now if he was still alive. But I think all the substance uses, etc., it came at a cost at the end, and a lot of people at the end, like of their cycles, and another thing is these guys that are in bodybuilding, they have proper coaches, they have proper trainers, they have proper doctors that are guiding them through this whole process, when like how to get on it, how to jump off it, what are some of the risks, how to mitigate those risks, so they have risk mitigation strategies, I would say, to sound a bit corporate, but your average Joe doesn't have that, so.
That's a really good point, yeah. And I feel like they probably obviously have to take the natural route initially to create that image and frame, and then like once they got like more of the status and the wealth, then they were able to now go towards these substances. And before even that, they're even aware of them, like as in they know the consequences of it, but the purpose of doing it is just stronger than the consequences. And I think with like all these things, it's just you got to accept the positive and negative consequences. And I mean, it's got to be a deeper reason than just like, oh, because I want to look jacked. Because that I think that is like I call it like the infinite void of, I forgot what I actually called it, but it's like some infinite void where it's like you think you're jacked, right? And you look around people, there's bigger guys than you. You think you're rich, there's more rich people than you. You think you're famous, there's more famous people than you. That is a never-ending hedonic cycle that will never, ever be filled, ever. And I think if your purpose is that, you're never going to be fulfilled and content. You're just going to be going through this infinite void of hedonism. That's what I call it. It's just ongoing and ongoing. And it's going to end up actually going towards like substance abuse or addictions. That's where it comes from. This addiction of this version of self that we think, once we get there, that's it. But really, it's not going to actually fulfill that. So that's why I say it's a much more deep-rooted problem. And unless your reason is different, right? It's like you have an actual strong purpose and core reason, right? And it's like sort of beneficiary across. I think it's like a legacy type of thing. That's completely different. But if it's just to look jacked, to look better, to look this, it's more of like a narcissistic type of thing. And I think it's hedonic, and that's the curse of it. Because you're always going to find people that are better than you, richer than you, smarter than you, stronger than you in every aspect, every time. And how do you come to that conclusion of being content and fulfilled? It's a never-ending process. So that's why I think it's a much more deep-rooted issue. And I think a lot of it comes from, everyone has insecurities from their childhood, self-limiting beliefs and all these things. So that's the thing. And I think that's why you have to critically think a lot when you use social media. And that's why I think that's the thing that he's trying to also, I think, imply indirectly, where it's like there's 99 variations before them uploading it. And so that's the thing. It's like critically thinking and realizing that, there's a lot of things that weren't perfect before getting there, and it's a process.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you don't see behind the scenes. I think people can benefit from really thinking about what goes behind the scenes of certain things. Behind that camera, what is the story? Behind the podcast mic, who is that person? Behind that content creator, who is that person? Because we usually miss that, like we don't think of that. Our attention spans are so short that there's no time to think about that. If someone makes a cringe TikTok, it's like, oh, what a cringe guy. Let's absolutely annihilate him in the comments. But label him. But then it's like, hey, like who is this person behind the camera? That person has emotions. That person has feelings. I think that's what it's removed us from. We've become so numb. We don't see people as people with feelings. We just see as people as NPCs. You know, it's like GDA, like just punch him in the face, you know, sort of thing. And it's not the right way to approach things, in my opinion. It's ruined it big time.
Yeah, and I think it's just like also the fact that even with actors, like we think, oh, they're like this forever. Like Shah Rukh Khan, every girl's dream. They think like he's like that type of actor in in real life, but he's not like that. It's just acting.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we idolize these like personas that we see on social media, and we think that's them. Like we think that's them 100% of the time, when it's just a snapshot, as we said, like a snapshot of a moment of time. That's not actually truly them. The people that actually truly know who they are their family or the people that talk to them behind the camera, like off camera. That's the truth.
I mean, even then you don't know who they are. I think family and friends are probably just the most that actually know who you genuinely are, you know?
Yeah, true.
I do think though, we all have different types of personalities. I think what social media also brings out is, I think we spoke about this a bit, but the different personalities that you see in people.
I would say like different personas of people.
Yeah.
Because the way I see
Which
it
comes
is,
from the word personality. No, I'm joking.
and the reason why I say that, because like we all have different personas, like, and it's not really I wouldn't say it's a complete personality thing where it's like 21 split personality.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That type of thing. Because the way I see it is like, it's like, for example, in the context of work, you're going to be more professional, right? So you're not going to be saying as much like crazy jokes. It's probably going to be like dad jokes if you're around us.
Look, it really depends. It really depends. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But like you have like how you are with your friends is different with how you are with your family. With how you are with your
boss.
With your boss, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's not a personality shift. Like you still have qualities and traits of that personality, but it's sort of filtered because it's just contextual. Like you can't really joke around as much with your boss, right? It's more corporate. It's more professional, it's more serious type of thing. Whereas with your family, yeah, it's semi-formal, like you joke around, but there's some jokes that they won't understand, which you can't talk about. But with your friends, you're completely like that's open. You're open with things,
unhinged.
And maybe with yourself, it's different as well. How you are with yourself.
Yes, that's an interesting one. How are you with yourself?
That's a pretty good question. Actually, I've been thinking about that a lot this week. Really defining that. Yeah, I think it's I think it's just like we really lack that self-compassion and things amongst ourselves. Like we're pretty harsh on ourselves a lot of the time. So I'm just trying to find ways to be able to still find some form of contentment with just enjoying time by myself. Like going just on a random drive somewhere and just enjoying that time. It's a skill, to be honest, to be able to do solo traveling and things like that. I admire people that are able to do that, to be honest. Not because they're independent or something. They're doing it because they feel they're actually content with where they are and who they are. They're not where they probably want to be, but they're content with where they are currently. And that's, I think, that's so underrated, like to be at that point of life. And it actually, I actually did go through some things that I was critically working on this week, like self-limiting beliefs. And I was looking at it a very, like at a deep-rooted level. I'm like, where do these come from? Oh, it's from like childhood. All these insecurities that I had from other people, and I don't really blame them. Everyone has self-limiting beliefs, right? It's just, we're just conditioned. We have programs, and it's just being aware about it, and it's slowly coming to accept it, and then just finding a way to integrate it or like basically use it in a more positive sense. So I just spent some time looking into that, egoless versus ego and things like that, and it created like this egoless description. But I think that part is very important, and we don't actually do that enough. Like, do you even give yourself 10, 15 minutes throughout the day to even think about like just yourself, removing everything else?
It's a good question.
And what do you think about yourself too?
I talk to myself a lot, and I'm not.
I do that too, yeah.
I talk to myself a lot. Like, I'll create scenarios in my head, like wild scenarios. I'll imagine myself in those scenarios. Like I'll imagine myself at the UN giving a speech. And I'll talk about what I think the world needs to do better and what the world is lacking, what the world is doing great in. Or I might imagine myself walking to the pyramids with an Egyptian tour guide, and I'm having a conversation with him. Like it's a wild thing. It's wild, but I talk to myself a lot. If I'm gonna, yeah.
I was gonna say, do you talk to yourself in a positive sense or a negative sense?
Not a positive sense. Sometimes neutral. Sometimes it gets a bit negative. Like if I'm on a morning walk, I try to do a very positive look. I don't even wear, I try not to wear earphones. I'll just leave my phone in my pocket and just walk. And you just absorb the environment around you a bit more. Like it's cold, but you start to, like these little the noises of birds chirping, the cars going, all that sort of stuff. It's a different level of serenity. Yeah, but when I talk to myself, I'm having conversations with other people. But when I do talk to myself, it's a neutral, it's a balance of, at times where it's like I've just been swamped with work and I couldn't do what I want. I say to myself, you idiot, like you said you're going to do this, are you going to do it? And then, but you know what? Sometimes that negative self-talk can talk you into going and doing that thing, like what you should be doing. Like yesterday, for example, like I had a really long day at work and I'm like, I can't do it. Like I just don't want to go to the gym. I don't feel like going to the gym. And then I went to and then that self-talk actually helped me go, no, it's only 45, 50 minutes. You're going to feel better. Just do it. And then it helped. And then post that, I went for a walk, which helped even more. So sometimes taking that action to do the thing that you hate or don't want to do, then doing it leads you to go on to do better things. I've found. That's why a morning work or a morning workout is good. I hate morning workouts, but a morning workout or a morning walk, whatever it is, to just do something you don't want, sets up for your day. And I've realized that now a bit.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think it's good you're able to use that negative voice of in your mind just in a positive way to take action, because many people would become, I would say, a victim to that voice and actually just don't take action and just put themselves in the death spiral of negativity.
It happens and it's sad. I empathize with people like that because it's not who they are. As in there's ways out of it, but they just don't know it. And I think the people that are super successful, hyper successful, done well, have actually gone through the worst of times, absolute worst of times. And this isn't saying that, if you're going through the worst of times now, or if you're not successful now and you've gone through the worst of times, then it's your fault. It's sort of like the worst of times show you that you can conquer the bad times. So therefore, if your brain is if you've been able to conquer something monumental and then you don't want to go for a walk, you won't be, that won't be, when you compare those two reference points, you're telling yourself that you're able to do X, therefore you should be able to do Y. So I think, and that's where a lot of people's the success comes from, is small, consistent wins, but knowing the resilience and the adversity they've faced in the past allow them to overcome it. Therefore, anything they go through now, they'll be able to overcome it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the way to view it for sure. And having those pieces of evidence of things that you have done, and that's why I think it's important to track that as well. As in things that you've done, achievements. And I think David Goggins actually does that. He calls it a candy jar. It's not really candy actually. It's just a jar full of notes of things that he's achieved. And he's every time I feel depressed or down or anything, I just get, it's like a candy for me. I just take something off the jar and just remind myself, I achieved this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly what he does. I was that's a pretty good idea. It can be, for some people, it can be diary journals or something, or it can be whatever it is. It's just a reminder for you of the things that you've done when things are tough. And I think that's a really good way of doing it. It's almost like simulating that child in you, where you get the candy and stuff from the jar, and then
yeah.
But instead, it's obviously notes and things you've achieved. It's that's pretty nice, yeah.
It sort of touches on that sense that you're kind to yourself as well. Like I think people, you tend to forget what you've been able to achieve and what you've been able to do. Like you just, because you're just looking for that next rush. You're looking for the next achievement, the next win. That you've forgotten all the little wins you've had along the way to get you to this position, to go for those more wins, but you forgot about them. And it's always the hunt for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
As we said, like it's social comparison is the number one, I think, killer of the self, because you're comparing yourself to what other people are doing. And I'll be honest, like it's been with me too. Like you go out on social media and you see everyone doing these things, and then you hear of people and you have your parents also comparing you. It's just endless. And I think that's the problem. And then you try to also replicate, like social replication, or like you're trying to replicate someone else. I want to be like Elon Musk. I want to be like this. And it's like you never will be him, because even if you try to emulate him, there's like a subtle difference in your experiences that you'll never be able to replicate. Like butterfly effect. He might have had some like abandonment. Do you want to go through like abandonment and go through that type of journey? Maybe not. And I think that's the thing that people miss out on. And that's it's number one killer of self. Like you're trying to emulate someone else that you can't be. I can't be you, you can't be me. It's just, but we can at least learn from each other and get the best out of each other. I think that's the way it should really be. And I think, as you said, like being kind to yourself is very underrated. Even forgiving yourself. And another thing that I've come to realize was like not giving myself the permission to do things. Like, and I think it's come deep rooted from school, where it's like you always have to be told what to do.
Yes.
And from like your parents.
Yeah.
And like it's, you know what's funny is like all the things from like 0 to like 19 or 18, I'm almost having to unlearn all these like beliefs and things that I have at this 20 to 29 age. Like I have to unlearn all the things from then to then relearn and rewire my brain to be able to go out and achieve things that I want to do. Because all these self-limiting beliefs, and I think that's the thing. Like we don't give ourselves the permission, like as you said, to be kind to ourselves or to be able to go out and do something. We have to be told by Tony Robbins or like some big guy has to come out and tell us why. Why can't we be the one that tells ourselves to do something? And why can't we also be the one that also is kind enough to also look at the things that we've done really positive? And the frame that I thought of was like looking at yourself from a third person objective, where it's like when you see your friend, like who's like say your friend, right? He's never gone to the gym at all, right? And his first time, he's pushed weight beyond like what he imagined, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm so weak. I could have done better." But then you're like, "No, you did pretty well. Like it's your first day, you actually lifted, you actually came. That's a big achievement, you know." Like we're so kind to other people from a third person objective, but we're not kind to ourselves too. And I think if you change your frame of reference to look at the things you've done at a third person, you'd see it in a very different light. And I think that's the way to be a bit more kind to yourself. Definitely. Change your frame of reference. You know, you're kind to your friend. Why can't you be kind to yourself to appreciate it? That's what I learned recently.
That's incredible that you say that, because the unlearning things, like there's a lot of cultural influences and different types of influences you've had throughout your life. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is who you are at 18 is not what you're going to be at 25, but who you are at 25 is not what you're going to be at 30. So I think people evolve and change as they grow up. And yeah, I'm quite fascinated about the unlearning thing, because yeah, you're right. There's so many things. And what you said there was true. Like your own experiences should allow you to think and get out of that mindset. But I think having someone share their experiences inspires. And it kind of goes back to, you know, you should like inspiring from the success of people rather than comparing. You know, like if you see a successful business owner on Instagram or a successful podcast or whatever it is, successful content creator, looks, people on social media, you tend to go there for validation. But then aside from what they post, how do you absorb that information? And if you absorb it to just give them the validation and move on, then you probably haven't done the right thing for yourself. But if you've done the due diligence of, you know, this is success, this is who I strive to be, there is ways to get there, and I need to find my way to get there.
Yeah, that's a very good I would say framework or like approach to social media.
But don't do that with memes.
Of course, like you gotta have content that is obviously entertaining. You can't be like, oh, why am I absorbing like this meme? What is the purpose in like
memes is
Socrates philosophy?
Memes is lovely. Memes are the life of the world. You need memes. Memes are very important.
Yeah.
It allows people to just be creative, I think. Which is like you just see the most funniest things, but the most funniest things are the most simple at times. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course. If it's too complex and people start to dig deep and just build philosophies, conspiracy theories, and it's lost the purity of the meme.
You know what's funny though? These kids, like there's literally 12, 13-year-olds spending days making these memes. Like these kids spend hours like grouped together making memes together and posting it and running these meme pages. Like that's it's so fascinating though. Like good on them. I commend them for bringing some of the best laughters in the world enough to